almost, yeah. But anyway, flints in those days, I mean, you had to, it wasn't, you know, cock it and let her fly. If you're a muzzleloader shooter, you got to pack in the gunpowder, you got to cock it back, you got to load the ball in there, you got to put the flint so that when the hammer hits the flint, it hits a spark, which ignites the gunpowder, which shoots the projectile out the barrel. I mean, this is a little bit different than today. So they took 500 rifle flints, were little pieces of stone, right, that would cause a spark when the hammer hit and ignite the gunpowder. Can't shoot your gun without a flint, right? They took 30 steel pieces for making fire. 30 pieces of steel for making fire. Leilani, how in the world would you make a fire with a piece of steel? What happens if you bang two pieces of steel together apart? You get a spark. Very good. So 30 pieces of steel for making fire. Now this will be on your matching, so make sure you get this next one. They took 1,100 doses of Emetic. Emetic, it's on your ID sheet, Emetic. They took 1,100 doses of Emetic. Anybody know what Emetic does?
Like ibuprofen?
No, good guess.
I'm thinking it's more than diarrhea.
What's that? It has kind of, well not kind of, yeah. It has to do with your stomach. Can you imagine going on a trip like that? Is it possible you could have stomach issues, get a really bad stomach ache? If you get a really bad stomach ache, what's the best way to solve your stomach ache?
Right.
Not that way. What's the best way? If you're feeling really sick, what do you want to do? Throw up. What Emetic is, it's something you take that induces vomiting that gets you to throw up. So these people, when they had digestive problems, which you can imagine they're not eating like you're eating, right? A lot different deal. When somebody got a really bad stomach ache, they would give them Emetic, which would cause them to vomit to make them feel better and cure their digestion problems. They took 1,100 doses of that, which tells you that there was a lot of barfing going on this expedition. Because people didn't eat things that were right, got sick, got stomach aches. When you have all that pressure in your stomach, the best way to get rid of that pressure is to throw up what you ate. If you ate something bad, you want to throw it up. And they ate a lot of bad, I mean, they ate a lot of experimental stuff, so to speak. So they took 1,100 doses of Emetic, which helps with digestion. It's basically an agent that induces vomiting. Okay? They took 3,500 doses of what we call a diaphoric. Diaphoric. It's on your ID sheet. 3,500 doses of diaphoric. No?
Maybe it stops diarrhea.
No? Yeah, that's what I would have thought when I saw it.
That stops the whole thing.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Counter.
Let me ask you a question. Hey, Ellie, my dear, have you ever had the flu?
No.
You really have? Lucky. Who's had the flu recently?
Well, not recently.
Okay, when you have the flu, what do they try to get you to do to get that flu out of your system? What do they want? They give you soup and hot tea and all that stuff trying to get you to? No? No? Well, but what's the best way? What's the best way to get you to get bad at something out of your system?
Flush it out.
How?
Liquids. Lots of liquids.
Okay, you can drink liquids and go to the bathroom, but maybe if you're in the flu, if you have the flu, you don't feel much like drinking liquids. Okay? Sweat it out. That's exactly right. And these diaphorics were a dose of medicine that would induce sweating during illness. So if somebody got sick, they believed at that time the best way to get rid of that sickness was to clear it out of your system or sweat it out. So they brought 3,500 doses of diaphoretic to induce sweating when people got sick. Okay, now this would be a lot. They brought 193 pounds of boiled down dry soup. Cup of noodles, baby, cup of noodles. They brought 193 pounds of boiled down or dry soup that you would add water to, heat it up, and make soup out of it. That's 193 pounds, that's a lot of soup. 193 pounds of boiled down dry soup, like cup of noodles.
Makes soup get old fast.
If it's boiled, yeah. If it's dry, it stays pretty good. Now, this is kind of interesting, I wouldn't have bet this, they brought 12 pounds of soap. 12 pounds of soap, I don't know what a bar of soap weighs, but it'd be a lot of bars of soap, right? 12 pounds of soap, huh?
These had their priorities.
That's right. They weren't stinky. I'm not betting on that. 12 pounds of soap. They brought 288 knives for 45 guys. That's about
Wait,
5 knives a person.
what did they bring? You know, like 45 rifles so each guy has a rifle?
No, they brought 288 knives. I'm just giving you the history here, Colt. 288 knives.
Doesn't make sense.
Now, this next one you'll be surprised. They brought 4,600 sewing needles. For what? Fix their clothes and make clothes out of maybe animals they killed. 4,600 sewing needles. I don't know who comes up with a list like this, but when I went to Spokane for 3 weeks in my camp trailer, I didn't pack any of this kind of stuff. So 4,600 sewing needles, excuse me, noodles. Now,
Okay.
here you go, the last thing of significance, they brought 130 rolls of, not what you're thinking, no, tobacco. 130 rolls of tobacco. And rolls were big in those days. Not all for themselves. What did they use some of the tobacco? Trading with the Indians. They thought that maybe if they ran into these hostile, violent Indians, that maybe they could trade them some tobacco for some peace, so to speak. So let's go through this list again, please. Quiet. 15 54 caliber rifles and enough gunpowder to defend the fort. 500 rifle flints. 30 pieces of steel for making fire. 1,100 doses of emetic to help with digestion, induced vomiting, 3,500 doses of diaphoric to induce sweating during illness, 193 pounds of boiled down or dry soup, 12 pounds of soap, 288 knives, 4,600 sewing needles, and 130 rolls of tobacco, some to be used as gifts for the Indians they would encounter. Now, what are you going to have here if you're Lewis and Clark? Because I'll bet you these 45 men you take are not the top of the liners, right? They're probably going to need a little, starts with a D, little discipline. So Lewis and Clark believed in stern discipline, and they would use that along the journey. I'm going to give you 3 examples of some discipline that were administered by Lewis and Clark on these 45, on some of these 45 men along the journey. Some of them got in trouble before they even left. Several men were confined to quarters. What does that mean? Before they even left. Couldn't leave their quarters because they were afraid they would do something stupid and not be ready to go. In those days, doing something stupid was be out doing what?
Probably getting drunk.
Getting drunked up. So what these guys did is they were told not to go to any grog store, G-R-O-G. They were ordered, you are not to go to any grog, G-R-O-G, grog store prior to departure. Anybody know another name for grog is? What type? What type of, no, grog store would be liquor, but not, what kind of liquor? What did they enjoy in those days? Not whiskey, rum. Yeah, grog was rum. So Lewis and Clark believed in stern discipline. They would use it along the journey even before because several of the men were confined in their quarters because Lewis and Clark found that they visited a grog or rum store prior to departure. They didn't want them all drunked up, right? No way. You know when General Custer left for the Little Bighorn, he took his men specifically one night in advance because he didn't want them all drunked up the night before he left, so he surprised them and took them late in the afternoon so he could get them out of town, so to speak, so they weren't all drunked up the night before they left. Another example of discipline is one man got in trouble and they gave him 100 lashes with a bullwhip, basically, and sent him back downriver. In other words, he didn't even end up going. He screwed up so bad that they gave him 100 lashes with a whip and sent him back downstream, cutting him off from the expedition. I'm not sure. And 2 specific individuals, both you need to know, John Newman and Moses Reed, who are on your sheet, they court-martialed them for mutiny and desertion and sent them back as well. Yeah, John Newman and Moses Reed, R-E-E-D. They were court-martialed for mutiny and desertion and sent back as well. So that's just some examples of the stern discipline that would be used along the journey. They haven't left yet as far as our timeline goes. Yes. Okay. For mutiny and desertion. Mutiny is when you're not doing what you're told, and desertion is when you run away. Johnny, it's on your sheet. Where's your sheet? Johnny Newman and Moses Reed. Now William over here, which a lot of my AP kids do too, he's writing on his ID sheet. That's a good idea. I think that may really help him in the matching, because that's what we're going off of. Okay? So, with all that said, we will end today with this. At 4 p.m. on May 14th, 1804, at 4 p.m. on May 14th of 1804, the Corps of Discovery departs from the mouth of the Missouri River near present-day St. Louis, Missouri. At 4 p.m. on May 14, 1804, the Corps of Discovery, or Lewis and Clark expedition, whatever's your term, they departed from the mouth of the Missouri River near present-day St. Louis, Missouri. They departed from the mouth of the Missouri River near present-day St. Louis, Missouri. What does the mouth of a river mean, Anthony? Where the river runs into a bigger body of water. The Missouri running into the Mississippi at St. Louis. That is where they took off. That's where we'll pick up tomorrow. Now, kiddos, without being a little grumpy tomorrow, how about if we bring everything we need? I know that doesn't fit. I'll even let you leave it right there if you'd like, if it'll bother you. I want that blue binder here every day and prepared to go. Now, Mr. Nas.